and we'll just make sure that the distances are right. Like I said, the lineup I don't think was right based off what I saw initially there. We'll check as we come in. So one of the other things that's important to keep in mind with these is you might have a value in the right, or an object in the right place, so at 3 miles. So that's what we're at right here. But the problem is, if we look here, we're not actually quite there yet. That's because your nautical miles also includes your height, which is what I was talking about. You have to stay at a consistent value for when you're trying to get those marks, which is why I stayed at 150 feet. So 3 miles is pretty close. It's good enough. And yeah, these are really bad. Tough to change these. 2 miles is pretty good. 1.5 was a little early. A mile is pretty good. But, like I said, they are off really bad on heading. There's the center. Alright, so I'll go ahead and fix those now. I was trying to decide if I was going to fix them now or later, but I'll fix those first here. So basically we get to do exactly the same thing we just did all over again. Alright, so we can see the mile is actually where it's supposed to be. I just was drifting left pretty bad. Obviously after I unpaused the first time, I drifted left pretty substantially. Alright, so we'll sleep back here. Get back to 150 feet. The reason I use 150 feet is it's one of the main, for the solos, it's kind of our main altitude. And the diamond uses it pretty often as well. So we'll try to get right on a heading here. We'll hold that. So there's one, it's about 141, 142. So there's a mile, that one should be good. And there's 1.5 miles. So we're drifting right a little bit again, but it's not as bad. Yeah, that's right. So we'll go back to the map. Eventually I'll get to the right program. There we go. Now, you could, theoretically, you could move these objects just by hand. I don't like doing that though, because you lose precision with it, particularly under distance. So if you move on one axis, then you're probably going to move on the other by mistake, which is not ideal. And we'll go ahead and change that as well. Get that more on the right heading, somewhere right in there. Alright. There's 2 miles there. So you can see the other thing that that does with having it in their incorrect place is it also messes with your distances if it's not on the right line. Alright, so looking for 3 miles here. There's our 3 miles, and we're just going to double check behind us here. That's a lot closer. We did drift a little bit, looks like. And that should be good enough. So we'll use that value as well. The good thing with setting these up in the correct order you want is that you don't have to change the objects. You can change objects after you've put them in, but there are some objects, these aren't any, try that again. All these current markers are correct where they have the center, the CG center is right in the middle of the object, but if we look at the tractor trailer over here, you can see that the center is actually all the way up here, which is not ideal when you're trying to change objects because it'll shift the positioning a little bit. Alright, so we'll manually compile this. Version 2. This is where it gets pretty interesting trying to delete old versions. We can run into this problem. So here's a little tip and a trick for anyone that makes this stuff. And it doesn't always work. But we're going to see if we can get it to work. So what I'm going to do to kind of run it through first is I'm going to click OK over here on the scenery library, which will reload it. Then if I click over to this folder that I have on the middle of the screen here really quickly and click try again on this button here, then it might delete version 1 of the markers before it reloads the scenery here. It's the theory. Doesn't always work, but it works some of the time. Alright, so it deleted the markers. We'll see if it gives us an error in FSX. Usually this is about where it gives you the error, so it hasn't given one yet, which is a good sign. Alright, just posted something on Facebook there. So, I mean, we're just waiting for FSX, which is kind of a common thing here. Alright, so that is much better looking. Looks like it's pretty much right on the line. Go ahead and fly out, take a look again. Just pull a quick half Cubanate here. So if we look from here, it looks like those are pretty straight markers. And we'll go run down them. The nice thing here, we have show center is marked out right here on the HUD as well. So that's pointing straight to the show center marker, which is nice. It is slightly, as you can see there, it's slightly left of the runway because I didn't put it right in the middle of the runway like I should have. But it is what it is. Alright, so that's about what we want. Right down right down the center. You have to move that trailer a little bit. It's a little bit too close. But now we got those, so we're gonna go up to 150. Yeah, that wasn't good enough. Try that again. Try to get right on the heading here again, so we don't have to make this twice. 150 feet, pretty much on the heading. There's 1 mile. So one of the difficult things when you have something like this, where we're going to go from water onto land, possibly onto water again, and then back onto land, is you have to change types of markers, and they also have to be a little bit more obvious. So that's a bit of a difficulty of doing this. One of the other things is that we try not to have the same markers on both show left and show right. So kind of have to find some variation in these markers while we're making them. So this was our 1 mile marker on the other side. So we don't really want to use that. Let's see. Want something small, but not quite that small. What we might end up doing, let's see, it's 75 footer. That might be all right. So we'll put it in a 75 footer and we'll see what happens with it. If it's all right, probably won't be. In which case I will either scale it up, which is one option, or alternatively I could change it to something else. We'll see. All right, so that's our mile. There's 1.5, that was a little late, but we'll see what happens. So this is where it gets kind of interesting. So it's still over water, so we're going to need a water marker. Looks like all of them are going to be water up to the 3. But it is a little bit more challenging to see markers when they're right at the shoreline like this. Oops. So that always makes it interesting. Alright, so we'll change the marker. Let's see what we got. That one usually we try to use in front of the crowd, but we might end up using it here anyway. I'm actually probably going to end up changing the show right markers a little bit. I might put a ferry over here and then put a cutter or a cruiser show right, just to kind of make it a little bit more realistic, I suppose. Ferry could probably get in this shallow water, cutter not quite so much. Alright, let's see. We'll use this one. Let's see, what do we have? We can use 1.5 miles. Don't want to be too big. These are nice for some things, but it can get kind of challenging to use, particularly because most of them are docks, and these are really small, so I might end up using them like in front of the crowd, but they're hard to see unless you scale them up substantially. We'll use this one. I missed it. There we go. Alright, so that's those two. That's going to be really close to the water. I'm not sure if that's going to work out or not, but we'll try it. We'll go to 2 miles here. There it is. Again, we're in the water. Make sure we're still on heading. Yeah, pretty much. Alright, so this one is also going to be interesting because I can't really put anything really big over here. I want to keep it kind of realistic-ish. But alright, we'll do this for now. Probably change it later on. Change it a little bit more. There we go. So this is one of the things I was talking about. So you can see this is the center of the vehicle is, or the vessel is not